Welcome back to the CryptoWorld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, this technical indicator is flashing a bearish signal in the short term, while $2.5 billion worth of Bitcoin has just been sent to Binance today alone. And so I'll be talking more about that later in the video. Definitely stick around. First of all, just giving you a quick update on the daily Bitcoin chart. And obviously, as you can see here, the larger trend at play is clearly still a bearish trend. But as I've been saying almost every day over the last 1 week, I'm mostly expecting some choppy sideways price action over the next few days. And this is likely to occur in between the local low at around 15.5k and this level of resistance at around 17,500. And obviously, over the last 1 week, this has been playing out as expected, and I do continue to expect some more choppy sideways price action here on the daily time frame, potentially over the next day, but soon enough we're going to get a lot closer to the next volatile move, or at least some increased volatility in the short term, because if you look here on the 6-hour Bitcoin charts, as of right now, at the time of recording this video, the 6-hour Bitcoin RSI is currently breaking below this ascending line of support that has been holding up the RSI on the 6-hour time frame ever since this low at around 15.5k. And so if this 6-hour Bitcoin RSI breaks this uptrend and breaks this line of support as it is right now, but technically this still needs to be confirmed. But anyway, if it breaks this trend, then once again, as I mentioned in the intro of this video, this is a bearish signal in the short term, telling us that we could see some more volatility to the downside, at least in the short term. But once again, as I just said, this still needs to be confirmed with at least a 6-hour candle close, but ideally a daily candle close, which is coming up in a little over 6 hours from now. And if we see that happen while this RSI is below this line of support, then once again, we could see a little bit more downside price action, at least just in the short term. And now if you zoom in even closer into the 2-hour Bitcoin chart, we can see over the last 1 day that the price of Bitcoin has gotten a clear rejection again from this range of resistance that I've been talking about over the last week or so. And this range of resistance, once again, is sitting at around 16.9k to 17k. And once again, as I mentioned yesterday, I would only begin to flip more bullish again in the short term if we see a confirmed break back above 17,000, and ideally if we flip 17,000 into new support again. If that happens, then I'll begin to flip a little bit more bullish just in the short term. But for now, while the price of Bitcoin is still finding a lot of resistance right here, and while we're still seeing some bearish patterns and bearish signals at play, as of right now, I'm still neutral to bearish on the price of Bitcoin in the somewhat shorter term, because once again, technically, we're still in this more choppy sideways price range, which is why I'm saying we're looking more neutral to bearish at the moment as of recording this video. And as for support levels, we of course have this range of support coming into play in between around 15.7k up to around 15.8k. And on top of that, if you zoom out to the weekly Bitcoin chart, we have the 50% retracement level sitting at around 16.3k to 16.4k approximately. And it was at that price level where we saw this recent low in the price of Bitcoin in the short term. Once again, around 16.3 to 16.4k, there's a bit of support there as well. And now if you take a look at the Bitcoin exchange inflows into the Binance exchange, what we're seeing today is a massive spike in inflows into the exchange. So basically, a lot of Bitcoin is being deposited onto Binance today. And now, generally speaking, an average day for Binance inflows would usually be roughly around 10,000 Bitcoin, give or take, based on what we've seen in recent months. And so at the current price of Bitcoin, that equates to roughly around $160 to $170 million worth of Bitcoin being deposited onto Binance on an average day based on what we've seen in recent months. But what we have seen so far today, just today alone, is roughly around 150,000 Bitcoin deposited onto Binance once again today alone, and at the current price that equates to roughly around $2.5 billion worth of Bitcoin flowing into Binance today. And as you can see on this chart right here, the green bars show the inflows, the Bitcoin inflows into Binance, and this is year to date. By far, this is the biggest single day inflow into Binance for Bitcoin. And even if you're looking at the last 3 years worth of history. This shows the entire 2020 to 2021 bull market and the entire bear market so far. This is still the largest single day inflow for Bitcoin into Binance that we've seen in many, many years. And so this is definitely something very interesting to pay attention to, because usually what we end up seeing when a lot of Bitcoin flows onto exchanges is that usually comes just before a dump in the price, because why else would you send Bitcoin to an exchange unless you were wanting to sell that Bitcoin? And now it is important to mention that this chart right here shows exclusively the inflows. It does not include any withdrawals from Binance. So if you actually look at the net flow, this includes both withdrawals and deposits, so inflows and outflows. And what we could see on this chart right here is obviously a massive amount of Bitcoin left Binance and probably a lot of exchanges during the FTX meltdown over the last week or so. And so it's possible that this massive spike in Bitcoin inflows into Binance that we're seeing today could just be the Bitcoin returning to Binance that actually left the exchange over the last week during all of these outflows. But what is interesting to see is while we're seeing that for Bitcoin, we are certainly not seeing the same thing for Ethereum. This right here is just the inflows for Ethereum into Binance. And right now, we're actually pretty much sitting on a standard day in terms of the inflows. And if you're looking at the net flow, so this looks at the outflows and the inflows, the total amount of change in the Binance wallet balances. And as you can see here, obviously, we've seen quite a lot of withdrawals over the last week or so during the FTX meltdown, which is certainly expected. But for Ethereum, we haven't really seen any of that ETH return to Binance, while we're seeing around $2.5 billion worth of Bitcoin flow into Binance today alone. And so technically speaking, this is a bearish signal for the price of Bitcoin, because obviously if you're sending Bitcoin to an exchange, you're not doing that to buy more Bitcoin, you're likely doing that to sell Bitcoin. But of course, we don't know for sure whether all of this Bitcoin is going to be sold or just some of it or even any of it. But considering it can be sold when it's moved onto an exchange versus off an exchange, that is why this is technically a bearish signal for the price of Bitcoin. So just be aware of this happening at the moment. But anyway, now getting into the Ethereum part of this video, this right here is the daily ETH to US dollar chart. And right now, as I'm recording this video, the price of ETH is still finding support along this golden pocket, coming into play in between around 1180 to around 1210. But as I've mentioned in recent videos here on the channel, if the price of ETH confirms a break back below this golden pocket, so below around 1180, then the next Fibonacci level of support to the downside is sitting at around 1050 to 1060 approximately. And as of right now, simply based on the daily Ethereum price oscillators, we're still looking relatively neutral in the short term, but obviously this is still within a larger bearish trend. And so potentially over the next day or so, we could still see a little bit more choppy sideways price action. But once again, this is still within a larger bearish trend. And so unless we start to see some more bullish trend reversal signals, which we're not seeing right now, then soon enough, we will eventually continue on with the bearish trend. And as for resistance here on the daily time frame, we still have this resistance sitting at around 1250, and anything above that, then I would expect resistance at around 1360, around 1470, and around 1.6k. And now zooming into the short term, looking at the 2-hour ETH to US dollar chart, obviously here in the short term, this choppy sideways price action is basically forming a symmetrical triangle pattern. And right now, the support line for this pattern is sitting at around 1180 to 1190, and the line of resistance for this pattern is sitting at around 1250 approximately. And once again, as I mentioned in my last video, while the price of ETH is still between this support and resistance, obviously we're looking relatively neutral in the short term. Like I've also been saying on the daily time frame, we're most likely going to play out a little bit more choppy sideways price action just in the short term. But then the moment the price of ETH either confirms a break below that support level or confirms a break above that resistance level, that will signal the next volatile move, at least in the short term. And as for technical price targets, if we see a confirmed break above that level of resistance, then that would set up a technical price target at around 1.4k approximately. But if we see a confirmed break below that level of support that I just mentioned, then that would set up a technical price target at around 1050, where we also have a Fibonacci level of support. But either way, whether the price confirms confirms a break above resistance and continues up towards that bullish price target, or confirms a break below support and continues towards that bearish price target, there's still ways to make money in crypto no matter what direction the price takes. And if you want to know how to do that, then check out these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left of your screen shows you how to make money if the price goes either up or down after a breakout, for example. And the video in the bottom left of your screen shows you how to make money in crypto during a choppy sideways price range like this. But anyway, that's everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all in the next video.